Hello. So it's still loading. I don't know why it's taking so long. Hopefully it hasn't broken. But welcome back to the stream. We are going to be back in X-Plane when it decides to work again. And I'm going to carry on doing some hour building for British Airways Virtual so that I can get up to the point where I can fly the Concorde for the VA. So that's the plan. So today we're going from Durban King Sharka down to Cape Town. It is raining and overcast in Durban, as we can imagine with the weather that's currently going on in South Africa. But Cape Town looks pretty clear. So, for those of you who just tuned in, what happened was there was an update for the ZIBO 737, which I did just before we streamed, and I broke something while I was updating. So, none of the screens were working and the tablet wasn't working. But I think it was my fault. So, I figured out what the issue is, and I just had to reinstall it. But we are waiting, just waiting for X-Plane to finish loading, which is taking way longer than it usually does, which is a little bit concerning. K-Sizzle's here, Badger's here, thank you for tuning in. What's the truck doing? In the little loading sequence, I don't know, it's just one of the baggage trucks. In Flight Sim, the airport vehicles are a little bit crazy, they tend to do their own thing. And now I'm a bit worried that this isn't going to load in because the loading bar is not moving. But we'll see. It does normally get stuck at this stage, but not for this long. Hopefully you guys can all hear me fine and see me fine, because I'm wondering if it's loading like this, if it's not destroying my stream. Okay, there we go, the bar's moving. There was a truck glitching all over the place. Okay, I didn't see that. Oh, it's probably just because it's a time lapse that you guys are watching. Hey, there we go. Okay, we loaded in. Let me just make sure that everything's working. It all looks good. That's fine. I don't really care about this error. Oh, that's why it took so long. It was making the custom nav dot. Never cut down a tree in the wintertime. That's just never gonna go away, is it? Right. Let me show you guys what I'm looking at. Right. So we've just got an error because it's the first time we've launched it. It's created the custom nav data, but we need to restart the sim to actually load that. I'm not too stressed about that for this flight, so we're gonna have to just deal with that being there for a while. Okay, let's go and make sure that another few things. I don't think I can just load a previous setting. Let's go and see if this is all set correctly. So we are flying for Comair South Africa, so British Airways owned Comair in South Africa. Right, this all looks good. No, that's right. Okay, so it looks like it has kept all of our settings. That all looks fine. The one we want to be 100% sure of is this one. We want that on there. And we want that on, which it already is. Okay, so this all looks pretty good. Wish I could clear this error somehow, but I can't. Okay, let's see if we can get our route for today. So, finally cleared out this flight plan list, so there's only a few in here. Never mind, I didn't clear this one out, I cleared out a different one. Never mind, lied about that. Right, what are we doing today? So we are going from Durban down to Cape Town, so we should be, I feel like I've already passed it. This guy here. Right, that's not the flight plan that I wanted. I want the other version. Do I not have the other version? Ah, okay, we only have the British Airways format, but that's not too much of an issue. We can deal with that. Let me double check. Right, so I have... Oh, okay, it's all Cirrus. Never mind. That's not too big a deal. I'm not a huge fan of the Cirrus format that British Airways uses. I prefer the Lido format, which is, I think, a Lufthansa format. But anyway, all the same information is there, really. So, the next thing I've got to do is make sure that British Airways air cars are seeing our flight. What's our cruise altitude today? 320. And our route looks good. I was saying 340. No, we'll do 320. Quite a long flight. Let's go up to 340. We'll change that. Right, so that's okay. We'll just accept that. Make sure it's happy. Right, the other thing is, ever since X-Plane was updated to use Vulkan, the rain that we had before hasn't been working. And I haven't seen... See, this ski rain looks really cool, but it hasn't worked since that major update. So I'm actually going to see if I can find a fix for that, because it is much better than the old X-Plane rain. Which looks kind of... Right, we are still in a WestJet livery, which makes sense. I need to go and just tweak that. See, normally I sort all of this out before the stream starts. But obviously, because we had issues, kind of solving this on the fly. There we go. Now we're in the British Airways livery that we're going to be flying down to Cape Town. So there we are, Comair, South Africa. As promised, it is cloudy and raining in Durban. But I think it's time to start going through the checklist and setting up everything. Hey K-Sizzle, thank you for tuning in as always. Let's go through our procedures. So we have started in a turnaround state, so a lot of this is already going to be done, but we're going to double check anyway. So battery should be on and guarded, which it is. Standby power also auto and guarded. Ground power we have accepted. Then this should be on battery for this guy. And ground power for this guy, which looks good. Then we can set our IRSs to nav, which they already are. Cabin utility power on. In-flight entertainment also on. Emergency exits lights should be armed and guarded. Anti-collision light should be off, which it is. Window heat, we'll have that all on because it is cold and rainy. Okay, probe heats will turn on just before we taxi. Anti-ice is not required. Engine hydraulic pumps, aha. So, the engine hydraulic pumps should be on, but the electrical hydraulic pumps should be off, so we'll turn those off. Fuel pumps should be all off. We're not on the APU, so we can turn even that one off. Then trim air should be on. Isolation valve should be open. Left and right resoak fans auto. Engine bleeds both on. And APU bleed is off. Then we can load up our fuel for the trip. So let's come back down here. Let's go and get this. And it says we should have 10,124. So we'll round that up. 10.2 tons of fuel. Let's go into our weight and balance. And here to payload. So fuel. Oh, we can actually put in the exact amount. So 10,124. Bam, like so. And we'll go back and we'll ask the fuel truck to come and upload that fuel for us. Right, now comes the fiddly bit where we have to set our zero fuel weight. So our zero fuel weight today is 59.2. So let's come in here and see what it currently is. So at the moment we're at 43.1. Now, number of passengers on board, which also reminds me. Now, in real life, I believe that you cannot board passengers while the aircraft is being refueled. I really don't want to wait until that is finished, so we're just going to do this anyway. But what I do need is to know how many passengers we have today. Let me go and double check here. Right, 166. So let's go back. And we'll go here, and we'll go 166 passengers, put that in. And as always, I've forgotten what the zero fuel weight should be. You guys must get in the habit of putting that zero fuel weight in the chat, because I always forget it. Not sure if I missed. What update was it doing for the ZIBO? Oh, so they release just bug fixes and adding new features and stuff. So I had a look at the patch notes for this update, and it's all just bug fixes. So one of the things that was on the list was, remember I've always said that the ZIBO descends too quickly and it doesn't keep that descent speed. It descends too fast and you go above your speed when you're descending, so that's supposed to be fixed. So we'll have a look and see when we're doing our descent into Cape Town if that works. So yeah, just general bug fixes and improvements to the flight model and stuff, nothing major this time. But yeah, that happens every month or so. They release an update like that because it's a community mod. It's free, so they're just working on it as they go. Right, 59.2 is our zero fuel weight. So let's see if we can get that over here. We are currently 57.5, so we need to add in some cargo. So let's put in 1.5 here, and we'll put in 2.5 there and see how that gets us. Okay, too much. So let's take out a bit of this. Take out a bit of this. Yeah, 59.2 we're aiming for, so we're getting close. Just a little bit more to come out. Let's go down to 1,000 here and see what that does for us. 59.7, a little bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna probably take, let's do this. 59.4 and a little bit more out of this side. 59.2. Cool. So that's our zero fuel weight set for our flight. So we are happy with that. All right. Let's have a look. That truck is probably still doing our fuel, so we'll wait until he's done before we carry on. Oh, that registration's backwards. That's awkward. Whoever made this livery didn't change that, or it did see it, couldn't be bothered. Right. So, fuel is busy being loaded. Let's set our cruise and landing altitudes. This is what we always forget, and that's why we run out of oxygen and everyone starts panicking. So, cruise altitude today, we said we'd do 340. So what I also like to do is come and set that in here straight away, so we don't forget. Go up to 34,000, like so. And our landing altitude in Cape Town, let me double check. So Cape Town is 151 feet, so we'll dial this down to 150, that's the closest we can get. I'll also put on the logo light just because we are on the ground. We'll turn on the wing lights as well because it's grey and rainy, just to give us more visibility. As soon as the fuel is done, we will...
Okay, the cabin is secured. Have a good flight.
Okay, that was interesting. As soon as the fuel's done, we will start the APU and get some air into the cabin. Although it is still 21 degrees, obviously Durban doesn't really get cold. Right. Let's see. Okay, cruise and landing altitudes are set. Fasten seatbelt sign. And come on. And then we can go down to our FMC. So that's going to complain because it needs to load that nav data, but that's okay. We're pretty chilled. Nothing much has changed in South Africa in terms of navigation. Hey Callum, thanks for tuning in once again. Always appreciated. We're in the ZIBO, flying from Durban to Cape Town for Comair British Airways. Right, we are at Urban King Sharka, and we're Alpha 8 is our gate today, so we'll put that in. And our company route will be Durban, Cape Town, 01, I think. Cool, let's happy with that. Right. Before we do performance, let's go and do our departure and arrival. So, if I remember correctly, route today, we are doing Durban 1 Bravo. So let's select that one, and that gives us runway 24, so that's perfect. And our arrival into Cape Town is Getten 1 Bravo as well. Let's do Cape Town's arrival. That's 1 Bravo, and that gives us runway 19. So we'll do ILS Yankee is perfect, and we'll put all of that in. Right, that's looking good. Now we can go back up here and do our performance. So our zero fuel weight, 59.2, 59.3 is okay. Let's round it up a little bit, which is fine. Reserves. Let's double check on our fuel. We'll call it 1.1. We'll round that up to 1,100, which is pretty standard. Cost index probably going to be 5. Cost index 0 today. Okay, so British Airways obviously using a different method for calculating that. We're going up to 34,000 feet. Now let's see if we can find on the Cirrus flight plan. It has, if I remember, it has like an actual thing for top of climb winds. I'm sure I saw that somewhere. Okay, not here. No. Yeah, so I guess we're just going to use this. Where are our winds on this? See, it doesn't have winds on this. Huh. Because I thought I saw it in a separate reading. So like I said, I'm not very familiar with this format of the flight plan, because I don't use this one very often. It's definitely in here somewhere. Okay, let's go through this carefully. Ah, there we go. Top of climb. There we go. So, wind 2 at 0 at 16 is our top of climb wind. So we'll put that in there. And we need to get that ISA deviation. Where do we find that? It's normally at the top somewhere. So that's our outside air temperature, but that's not what we're looking for. Let's see. Okay, those are weight changes, none of that stuff. Does it actually have ISA on here? Nope. I mean, it's not super important, to be honest. Those are all our alternate destinations. Don't see it anywhere on here. Okay, then we have maps for the flight. Significant weather, winds. Maybe they put it on one of these maps. Here's our vertical profile. Okay, I'm not too stressed about finding this. Well, just go back to the beginning and we'll have one last look. It should be on this very first page. I'm probably just being useless and missing it. I don't know if it's that. +2, it should be like +6 or 7. Meh. Okay. It's something I'll have to find. Oh wow, this has the airport elevations. and the runways that we're going to use. Okay, I've always looked for that in these flight plans. Oh, okay, that's quite useful. Right, so we're going to just leave our... You know what, I'll just put in 6. Good measure. It's normally around 6. Yeah, okay, there's topper climb outside air temperature. Ah, maybe they're doing it like that. So let's use minus 35 there and see if that adjusts the others. That's probably what they're doing. That's why. Okay, cool. Sorted. Right. Okay, so their format just has it slightly differently. Okay, what have we not done now? So we've done that. We need to do our limits. So 55 is pretty standard. Takeoff, flaps 5 is normal. Accept these speeds. So 148 is our V2. Let's dial that in. And we'll put in our center of gravity. Low. Are we still taking on fuel? Oh, yes, I have to do this myself. I keep forgetting because on the ZIBO, on the ZIBO, it used to do that automatically. Now, this is something that's changed. We need to go here and... Yeah, that all looks fine. So let's go back to the beginning. I wonder if they've done these now. Ooh, it looks like they might have actually finished working on this. So let's see, our runway is wet. It's not calculating anything though. I still don't think this is finished. Or it wants us to put stuff in there. Let's see. It looks like they might have finished this. Okay, but anyway, our zero free weight CG 16.9. Let's go and put that in. And our trim 6.25. So we'll dial that in on this. It's out there somewhere. Right. Our cabin is ready to go. Let's just have a look in terms of before we need to depart. 34 seconds. Maybe we won't mess around with that just yet, because we need to get going fairly soon. Okay, now that our fuel is done, let's go and flip all of these on. Do we have fuel in the center tank? We should. And we'll go ahead and start the APU. Your damper's on already, which is perfect. Right, so let's go and let that start getting ready, and we'll go through our checklist. So fuel's loaded. We've done cruise and landing altitudes, fasten seatbelt signs, auto. We've set up the FMC altimeter. We need to... Oh, let's go and get our QNH from the ATIS.
Lima Echo Airport information. Romeo 1800 Zulu weather wind 245 at 9er visibility 10,000 sky condition few clouds at 1,300 ceiling 1,600 broken ceiling 1,800 overcast light rain temperature 21 dew point 19er QNH 1016 advise on initial contact you have information.
Okay, 1016, and we overcast at 1800 feet. Let's put that in. Jeez, that's not what I wanted. 1016. So Callum says, is there a new ZIBO update? There was another patch today. I don't know, actually, to be honest, if it came out today or if it came out a few days ago and I only noticed it today. But let me tell you the version. I can check that for you right now. So the current ZIBO version, if I can find where I saved it, is so 3.45.15. So 3.45.15 is the latest version that's what I just installed today. So yeah, go and have a double check. If you don't have the ZIBO updater, go and grab that. It's really useful. But yeah, 3.45.15 is the latest patch. It could have come out a few days ago. I haven't looked at my PC for a few days. So it's entirely possible that it's been out for a while and I just missed it. Right, this MCP thing really kills me. Which one is it under? It's just here. Smart MCP there. Oh, that destroys me. Right. Right. Ultimate is done. APU is now ready. So let's switch over to that on the ground power and turn the APU bleed on, which gives us oxygen. Not oxygen. Gives us air into the cabin. Fuel pumps are all on that we need. We can switch this over now to APU. Make sure that we're getting electricity from that. Flight directors should both be on. So there's 1 and 2. Auto throttle should be off. This is set to V2. Altitude is set to cruise. Fuel flow switch. Let's reset and flip over to used. Minimums should be set to radio, which it is. And landing gear down, flaps up, speed brakes down. Thrust levers should be completely closed. Right, so there's another potential issue. Is the thrust levers are not picking up my controls. That's working. Let's go in here and double check. Over here. Oh, that's why. So we should just be like an absolute potato. I went and overwrote my previous settings when I was messing around with helicopters. What a champion. Okay, that all looks good. So that should now give us throttles. And then the other thing we need to go in and change is this. Okay. Actually, no, that's fine. That's already fixed. Right. Okay, and that's only going to do 1 throttle. So let's go in and just fix the second one. Oh, I put these the wrong way. Classic. Okay, so 2 on that one and 1 on that one. That should fix that issue. Right. Just fixing the sim as we go. Because live streaming. Okay, so the gateway is still connected. But our passengers are done boarding according to PACX, so I think we are ready to go. Right, your damper is already on. Done that. Passengers are boarded, so we are ready to push back. Is everything up and aligned? Yes, it is. So we need to push back to the left because we're taxiing all the way out to runway 24. So let's go and ask.
Hey, Captain, let me know where you want this thing.
That's perfect.
Great news, Captain.
I'll
Your
ask him
tow's coming.
to bring the tow in and push us back. Let's put this wiper on and get rid of some of that rain. Right. Now that we're starting the pushback, we can go anti-collision light on, and system B electrical hydraulic pump can turn on. We'll also just turn on the probe heats. This should be set to steady, which it already is, and we can also arm our auto throttle, like so. That ground power thing should have disconnected. Let's get rid of that. Cool, so we're running on the APU anyway, so we don't need it.
Alright, looks like the doors and hatches are closed and we're ready to connect.
Right, here we go, ready to push back on this rainy day here in Durban. nice and quiet now without the GPU card running. Basically, well, not even basically, it is just a little generator. And for those that are curious, if you have a look at the back of the aircraft, you will see a little kind of heat blow, I guess, because the APU is a little jet engine that sits in the tail of the aircraft. So it's literally just a mini engine, and obviously while the engines are running, they provide electrical power to the aircraft.
Welcome aboard, Captain. Toes connected.
But when the engines aren't running,
break when you're ready to go.
we can use the APU to provide electrical power. It's just a mini jet engine just for that. It doesn't provide any sort of propulsion or anything. It literally just does. It just does electrical power.
Light 'em up.
Right, so we are pushing back. There goes the jetway. And now that we are pushing back, we can start our engines. I like to put this on both, just makes it easier. We'll start engine 2 first. So we'll put that over to ground. And we should have this engine page up. So, what have I missed? These should be all. Interesting, I don't remember seeing that on the checklist. This should come up. There we go. So we look for 25 on there. $17, $18. There's 24 and 25, so we'll introduce the fuel, get that engine running. Okay, so now we're just waiting for this switch to flip over back to auto, and that means like so. That means the engine is done starting. We can start the other engine. So engine 1, once again, looking for 25 on the N2, and then we'll introduce the fuel. Pushback should be done fairly shortly.
Just about done here. Go ahead and set your parking brake.
So he's almost done.
And we're disconnecting the tow.
And
Give me
there's
just
25.
a moment.
So let's finish off starting engine 1. Okay, he can disconnect. Just want to double check, since this was all different. Is that set to flaps? That should be set to gear. That should be set to landing lights. Strobe lights, taxi lights. Okay, so that looks like everything on there is fine. It was just the throttles that were not assigned. It has multiple axes assigned to each throttle. We don't want this here. That's definitely not something we want. Right, that would have caused a huge issue, so I'm glad I came to check this out. Right. We'll just wait for him to disconnect. There he is reversing now. And once we get a hand signal from him, we're ready to go. So while we're waiting for that, let's go flaps 5. So 1, 2, 5. Auto brakes, 2 rejected
And we're
takeoff.
disconnected. Signal and pin on the left. Take it easy and have a safe flight.
That looks good. So we'll wait for him to get clear, and he'll give us the hand signal that we're ready to go. While that's happening, okay, probe heats are already on. We can turn on system A hydraulic pump. We can turn off the APU bleed here. Put this over to auto and auto on those two because we're running from the engines now. We can switch power over to the engines, and that also means we can switch off the APU. We'll set our engine start switches to continuous. That's all fine. We can turn on these lights because he will be clear by now. There he is with the hand signal, which means we are ready to go. Okay, so PACX auto, isolation valve automatic. APU bleed is off, APU is off. Lamp set for taxi, taxi lights on, runway turn-off lights on. Engine start switches continuous, auto brake, RTO, runway turn-off lights will turn off as we enter the runway. So, that means we are just about ready to go. Okay, so that's the other button that's missing. That's actually what I wanted to go and fix. So let's go here. We need to change this because that's set to the toeless parking brake. So let's just go. It should be this one. So, and that'll give us parking brake. Right, there we go. Let's make ourselves, or make our way down to runway 24 for takeoff. Okay, so I don't know if you guys probably aren't seeing the SESMA warning because of my overlay. That doesn't matter. SESMA is just a thing that British Airways has introduced, and it's still kind of working out the issues. So it's telling me I'm taxiing without my flaps, but my flaps, as we can see, are definitely set to 5, which is our takeoff position, so that's not an issue. But I just realized it's a tiny little message in the top left corner, so that's going to be behind that flight overlay for you guys. Okay, just testing the brakes, which are working fine. And we're going to take a right here. Aha. Okay, something else I need to go and change quickly. I wonder if this is because... Shouldn't be because I updated the ZIBO. So, this guy here needs to be our tiller, which is that one there. Okay, and that should now allow us to turn properly. Okay, I think that's the last of the joystick assignments we'll need to do for this flight. Let's hope. Right, now I have steering ability. Is good. Okay, then I always make this mistake. So I take the first left and then we have to turn again later on. So if I carry on to the next taxiway, we can just taxi straight all the way out. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So we're not going to take this turn, we're going to take this one to the left, and that will take us all the way out to the holding point for runway 24. Okay, and there we are set up now for our fairly long taxi. A little bit fast, but it's fine, it's a long straight taxiway. I mean, we're at 31, technically we shouldn't really go above 30. We'll pull the power back and just roll down to 24. Okay, while we're doing that, let's go through the next set of the checklists. So, before takeoff, engine start switches are set to continuous, auto brake, RTO, runway turn-off lights, they're on until we enter the runway. Then, position lights, strobe will turn on when we enter the runway as well. Same with the landing lights. TCAS, TARA we need to set as we enter the runway as well. We can blank this lower ECAM, like so. ENAV and LNAV armed. Then, once we enter the runway, we'll turn on the clock. We'll spool the engines up to 40%, make sure they are stable. Release the brakes, hit the toggle switch. And then we'll follow our V1, V2, rotate. Obviously V2 comes after rotate, but you get the idea. Right, let's go and set up the TCAS. I always forget. It doesn't really serve a purpose when we're flying offline. And we'll turn that to TARA once we enter the runway. Otherwise, we are looking good to go. Alright, let's get this out of the way. Stay on the taxiway. That's why you have a second person in real life to go through all the checklists and flip the switches while the captain is steering. Right, so here's the end of the taxiway. Us on to runway 24. So because we are just one person, let's turn on our strobe lights. We'll turn on the taxi lights and we'll flip this over to TARA, which means we are ready to go. Can also then turn off these runway turn off lights, and let's line up with our runway 24. LNAV and VNAV are armed, so that's good to go. Right, now that we are on the runway, we will just line up with the center line. And then we'll go through our takeoff procedure. So, start the clock. Throttles up to 40%, which is there. And we'll go toga. Airspeed's live. $80 knots. Wind is straight down the runway, so no issues keeping it straight.
V1, rotate.
Here's our rotate.
Positive rate.
Yeah, we got positive rate, so we'll go gear up.
$400. $1,000.
Okay, we're over 400 feet, so let's bring in the autopilot. So autopilot 1 can come on. And we can then switch this off. Taxi light can also come off. We'll do that when we sort out the flaps. Zoom out a little bit here, put the weather radar on. Okay, so let's go flaps 2. And flaps 1. We'll set our gear to off. And we can also bring flaps up in just a second. There we go. So flaps are now all the way up. Let's go through our after takeoff checklist. Okay, so flaps retracted, auto brake is off, engine start switches now can come back to auto. So, and next thing is landing lights off when we cross 10,000 feet. I think now as we come up to 250 knots, we'll turn off this windscreen wiper. And fairly soon, we'll switch over to standard on our altimeter. Right, and we're into the clouds. But like I said, down in Cape Town is looking pretty clear. So we won't be in the clouds on landing. We will be, obviously we'll get above this shortly, and then at some point down the coast we will be completely clear of all the overcast conditions when we reach Cape Town. Okay, so now we can set our altimeter to standard setting, which is not very far off from where we were, so it didn't change too much. But there we go. Back into the cloud layer again. If I have a look at the map, so the clouds go kind of down to East London. Once we pass East London, there is a cloud layer, but it's offshore. So we'll be safe from all of that right the way down to Cape Town. There's a little bit of a front coming in over Cape Town, but that's not going to be there probably until tomorrow morning. So we'll be flying over these clouds beneath us until we reach East London. From there on, it's clear all the way down to Cape Town. Right. There we go. Powering up through 8,000 feet on our way down to Cape Town International. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic Monday and you kicked your week off to a good start. And as always, thank you guys for choosing to spend your Monday evening with me in the ZIBO. Right, here comes 10,000 feet, so we'll turn off the landing lights. Landing lights off. And the plane will accelerate up to somewhere between 285 and 290 knots. So we're 286 today. It just depends on our cruise altitude and the weight of the aircraft. And the cost index, actually, I think. Yeah, the autopilot ferociously trimming the aircraft as it adjusts to the new speed. I always get scared of going to the outside view and panning around, because that's what crashed the sim in the middle of that 4-hour Concorde flight. And we had to start again. I don't know why it says landing in Los Angeles. That happens every flight. That's obviously coming from the ZIBO, which is interesting. Yeah, we are not landing in Los Angeles, we're landing in Cape Town. Let's have a look and play around with this while we are cruising. Because we're actually set in the climb, let's put the stream, let's put the music back on. Does the plane pick up on current weather conditions? Yeah, so this is all live weather. So I have an app called Active Sky XP. So Active Sky pulls real world weather conditions and injects that into the sim. So yeah, it's not 100%, because obviously it doesn't know exactly where every single cloud and every single drop of rain is, but it looks at the current conditions for the area and puts the same type of weather into the sim. So it's raining here, it's reasonably accurate to assume it's raining here in real life. So yeah, it is current weather conditions. What's nice about Active Sky is you can go and choose previous weather conditions. So let's say I wanted to fly a flight that actually happened last week Wednesday. I can go and get the actual weather for last week Wednesday and fly it as if I was flying it then. I don't generally do that. I tend to, there you can see Active Sky loading in the weather, so it's just done a weather update. It does that every half an hour or so. But I like to just use the current weather exactly as it is right now. So down in Durban, it is currently cloudy and raining. And I'm looking at the weather map. Down in Cape Town, nice and clear with that cold front coming in, which is probably going to hit in the morning. So yeah, nice live weather conditions. Obviously, like I said, not exactly the same, but very, very accurate. Okay, let's have a look at this landing calculator and see if this is actually working. So what runway did we say? I think we said runway 19. Yeah, so ILS 19. So let's put that in. So we're landing on runway 19. I don't actually know what this is. Radiance? I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Okay, condition is dry. Right, winds in Cape Town. Let's go and see what we have to work with in Cape Town at the moment. So, out in Cape Town, the winds are currently 210. No, not 210 knots, definitely. They are 12 knots, but oh yes, they wanted 210 at 12. Okay, so that's there. Outside air temperature in Cape Town is 18. QNH 1011. Flaps, we like to do flaps 30. Aircon, guessing it'll be on. Anti-ice not required. Brakes, we'll do auto brake 2. NNC, I don't know what that is. Speed brake, that'll be automatic. Reverse, can't actually change that. Okay, landing weight, let's go and see if it can tell us what our landing weight is going to be. It's just the center of gravity. It's page. Landing weight, we're predicting 64.4. Let's go and put that in. Right, so what does this actually tell us? Ah, okay, it gives us our BREF. So 152 is what our approach speed should be once we're on the localizer. And it tells us how much distance we're going to take to land. That's really cool. Okay, so we will take 2,424 meters to slow down. And there's our different distances that we'll take depending on the auto brake setting that we use. Okay, that's really cool. Now, that seems quite long, to be fair, and I'm wondering if it's because it's not taking reverse into consideration. It seems like that's something that maybe they haven't added yet. That's really cool. I can't actually take speed brake off either. NNC, not sure what that is, and I can't change it with the second change. So let's go to auto brake level 3, and now it tells us 1,865 meters to slow down. Okay, but I normally do level 2. If we change it over to wet. Oh, so now it allows me to use reverse. Interesting. Sure, wet runway will take us quite long to stop. That's interesting. Ah, interesting that I can't set reverse when it's dry. We do use reverse thrust even when it's dry. interesting. Let's see, the takeoff performance also must be working then. So let's go. I have to input all of that. Okay, so it seems like this is actually working nicely now. That's really cool. I quite like this display. So let's see. If I go here, close this. Let's look at our charts for Cape Town. Now I wonder, obviously I can work out the total distance of the runway. That'll be published here somewhere. But I don't think I have the little chart that lists all the distances. But here you'll see 3,201 meters is the total runway length. But then what would be cool is if we could find a chart that tells us the distances to each of the taxiways, because then we could work out which taxiway we're going to exit on based on that distance. It's not going to tell us that here. And this is just the parking, so that's not going to help us. If I just look at one of these, yeah, see, that's just the runway information. Let me see if I have a look at those charts, if I can find something like that. Right, we're coming up to 29,000 feet, so just a oh, still clouds all the way up here, so just a little bit of a way to go to our total climb. Okay, that doesn't look like I mean, that chart, it doesn't look like that's actually a thing that we can get. I mean, I'm sure that actual pilots would have access to that somewhere. It's probably just not something that I can find. That is really cool that we now know the distance it's going to take for us to stop. What does AD stand? 365 meters. I'm guessing that's the amount of runway that we're not using. So we're 365 meters from the actual end of the runway is where we touch down. Guessing, but what would AD stand for? Adjusted distance? Landing distance is the A stand. Oh, landing distance adjusted. So we're gonna take 3,000, well, we're gonna take 2,422 meters to slow down, and with that adjusted distance from the start, we're gonna end up 3,081 meters down the runway. And our runway's total length is 3,200 meters. Okay, so I'm guessing adjusted distance, I think, and then landing distance adjusted, just adding that on based on how far we touch down into the runway. So according to this, we're going to use up quite a lot of the runway. And if we go based on that, then we should only be exiting all the way at the end. Here onto Alpha. So let's see how accurate that is. I think we'll probably make Echo, because this doesn't seem to take into consideration you know, it doesn't seem to take into consideration reverse thrust when we are using when we have a dry runway. So I'm predicting that we're going to make Echo, but let's see how correct this is. Maybe we aren't. I'm trying to think now. All the flights that I've flown on into Cape Town for real, we've taxied off at Echo. I think we might even have taxied off at Charlie before. Is this one? Maybe not. I think we've always come off here at Echo. So let's see how accurate that is. However, quite a few of the times where I've landed, we have exited at alpha, so we'll see. If it's right, we're only going to turn off at alpha. If it's wrong, we're going to turn off early at echo. Cool. There's 1,000 feet from our top climb, and then we've got a nice long cruise all the way down the coast to Cape Town International. Here's the weather resetting, because it's obviously not half an hour. Maybe it's 3 minutes, 10 minutes. Pretty sure I can actually set that. Let's see. So we're on live weather. General option. Download into. Okay, so it's on 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes it'll update our weather. Yeah, obviously, because now I'm looking at active sky, I have to fiddle, and now I've changed something that caused it to restart. Classic. This is why I shouldn't mess around with it. Okay, so that's why all the clouds have disappeared. But it'll come back in a bit when active sky restarts. Okay, now that we're cruising, we should have actually done this earlier, but let's turn off the seatbelt sign. So now we have all the clouds back, but I'm going to keep messing around with this. Sometimes when I load in with the new ZIBO patches, it says error and it cannot load the proper fmod. You know why that is? So fmod is all the sounds. Now I haven't done anything extra to the sounds, but that means that I don't know if you've installed any extra fmod sounds. But that means something is not happy in the sound folder. Are you installing the full patch from scratch? Because that generally fixes all of my issues. If I just delete the ZIBO folder from my aircraft and then do a full install using the ZIBO updater, do a full patch install with the latest patch, and that should fix issues like that. But yeah, fmod is extra sounds that come with the ZIBO. So something is not happy with those fmod sound files. But yeah, I've never messed around with changing any of the sounds with the ZIBO. So let me know if you have installed any extra fmod sounds. If you have, those are causing the issue. I don't think it's better pushback. I've got better pushback installed. I've never had any issues like that. And the better pushback comes with the ZIBO, but maybe because it's integrated into the ZIBO, that's possible. So I would make sure that you've got the latest version of better pushback installed as well. That's always something good to check. Okay, but I see there's loads of stuff on the Explain forum here about ZIBO not being able to load fmod. Aha, so your Explain, is your Explain updated to 11.4? So to use the latest ZIBO version, you must be on the latest Explain version. Otherwise that causes a fmod error. So that's the first thing to check. Okay, so the other thing I'm seeing is to make sure that you don't have any mod aircraft, so like the ZIBO, set as an AI aircraft. So people are saying that that causes an issue like that as well. If you choose like the ZIBO as an AI aircraft in that in your explain menu. So that's something else to make sure you've turned off. Otherwise, mostly the issues are being resolved by people just reinstalling the latest full version of ZIBO and then installing your Fmod sounds separately as well. Yeah, but those seem to be the biggest issues, is not being on the latest explain version and having the ZIBO set, or any other add-on aircraft set as an AI aircraft. If you are on the latest explain and you don't have any AI aircraft set to be any complex add-ons, then I would say download the latest full ZIBO installation, delete the old one out of your folder and install that full one from scratch. That should fix issues like that. Actually, you don't even need to delete it manually, because when you do a full install, it deletes the previous one for you. So you can just download, if you're using the ZIBO updater, that is, it does that all for you, which is great. Yeah, hopefully that sorts your issue out. Otherwise, there's loads of stuff on the forums of people having the same issue. So then I'd say, just like I'm doing now, have a look through the forums and see if there's any other fixes that you can find. But I've been through like 5 or 6 different threads, and all of them have been resolved by either updating explain, removing AI, and then reinstalling the full ZIBO package. Lorraine, missing SA, only lived there 3 years. Wish we had stayed now. Yeah, where are you living at the moment? And when you were in SA, where did you stay? Welcome to the stream. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we can show you a little bit of SA. You should tune in when we do our VFR flying, when we look at different landmarks around South Africa. So a couple of nights ago we were flying around Durban Harbour area, looking at different dams, looking at different beaches along the way. So hopefully we can show you a little bit of SA that you missed so much. Right, let's double check. So we have, that's not what I wanted to click on. To top of descent, we are expecting to reach it at 5:29 Zulu time. We are currently 4:31, so we've got about an hour left to go before we start our descent into Cape Town. Next question is, do I have, don't think I have, what are we doing? Tubman 1 Bravo, I think is our arrival today. I don't have that chart, so let's go and see if I can grab that. I'm actually just a clown, because Tubman is our departure. Our arrival is Getten 1 Bravo, which we do have. Okay, getting that a little bit mixed up. Right, so we are landing to the south. So we're going to come in over the mountains. 8 DME from Cape Town VOR. We're going to turn 010 up to the north. And we'll swing around this mountain over here. So pretty much over Stellenbosch Airport, we turn up to the north. And we'll come around the mountain to, well, this is not much of a mountain, little hill, 2,500 feet. If you look at Table Mountain up 4,600 feet. And we'll intercept the ILS. So, landing this way, let's redo our calculations. Or I do that every time. Because we're not actually landing this way, so we're landing this way. Which means if their calculation is right, we'll exit at Charlie. Sorry, if their calculation is right, we're going to use pretty much all the runways, so we'll have to exit all the way down here at Bravo. But I'm thinking we're going to be able to make the turn at Charlie, so let's see. Lived in Western area, 81 to 84. Daughter was born there. Afrikaans people were lovely. Yeah, okay, that's fairly close to where we are. I'm in Pretoria at the moment, but I'm in Joburg during the weeks. So from tomorrow I'll be back up in Joburg. So yeah, that's reasonably close to where I am. And it's absolutely a pleasure. You're always welcome to tune in. I stream, I try to do it once every 2 days or so. And most of the flying that I do is around the South African area. So if you want to see more, feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and you will get a notification when I go live, and you can tune in and check out some more flights in and around South Africa. So this evening we're flying for Comair, so British Airways in South Africa, and we are making our way down from a wet and raining, cloudy Durban all the way down to Cape Town. So it's about a 2.5 hour flight this evening. It's morning in the sim, but evening in real life. Well, actually, I don't even know if you can count it as evening now. It's 9:30, so it's night. Also, I just spotted something on the outside. I should have turned off these guys. There's no point having those lights on up at 34,000 feet. No one's here to see them. Yeah, thanks, Lorraine. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we can entertain you with some flying. It's interesting that we are getting rain up here. There's no real clouds above us. So Kelly was asking earlier about the accuracy of the weather. So this is one of the things where I say it's not 100% accurate. Obviously, these little wispy clouds up here don't generate rain, but these ones below us do. However, if we jump inside, you can see we're getting a bit of rain on the windshield, and that's just because it's not always very accurate in where the rain is happening. So it kind of knows, okay, we've got clouds in the area, we've got rain in the area, and it's not quite accurate enough to say, okay, we're just going to place the rain slightly below the clouds. Now, in New Flight Simulator is pretty good at doing that. So they've got a completely new weather engine, obviously developed very recently compared to X-Plane, which has been around for years. So it's better at generating rain just where the clouds would actually make rain. However, it isn't as accurate at placing weather in terms of how it is in the real world. So where there is a cloud that should have rain, it's fantastic. You'll just get rain under the cloud when you're inside the cloud. If you're close to the cloud, you don't see as much of the rain. The rain gets harder as you get closer to the cloud. It doesn't all of a sudden just start. It's not like an on or off switch. But they haven't quite got it right yet with the weather being accurate as to where exactly it is in the world. So often it can be raining here for real, and I'll jump into an airport close to my house and there's no rain. But when there is rain and weather like that, it is very well done. So hopefully they'll work on getting that weather more accurate compared to the real world. But other than that, the weather looks fantastic and it works great. So if they can get that nice and accurate with the real world, that'll be super awesome. In other flight sim news, okay, cool, our center tank is just about empty. So as soon as that's empty, we'll go and turn off those fuel pumps. But I recently managed to get the A320 running reasonably okay. It's still really taxing on my system without using all of my system's resources, which is a bit annoying. But that does mean that I can start flying the A320 again on stream in the new flight sim, which is cool because before, okay, let's go and turn these guys off. Before it was just an absolute slideshow. It ran so badly, but now it's running okay. It's still not great, but it's good enough that I can actually fly it. So hopefully soon we'll jump into the A320 and do some more flights like that. So one of the things I wanted to do was recreate our flight that we did last week from Gatwick down to Innsbruck. So we did that in the A319 here in X-Plane, and it'll be cool to go and do that again in the A320 in Flight Sim, so that you can see just how different the new graphics are in the new Flight Sim compared to the old one. So Innsbruck looks amazing in the new Flight Sim. But yeah, hopefully the airliners in Flight Sim keep getting better, and they get them to a point where the frame rates are usable, so we can actually run them and we can actually fly the airliners on stream without sitting at 9-10 frames a second. So that's the plan. I'm going to keep testing that because last time we flew the A320 on stream we didn't have frame rate issues, but we did have autopilot issues. Those seem to be, I don't want to say completely gone, because I did have an issue the other day where the A320 once again flipped itself on its back and just fell out of the sky when we were cruising along like this, which is a bit strange. I've tested out the 787 on some really long haul routes, so I'm talking 17-18 hour flights. So I was doing Auckland to Chicago the other day, and it seems like after about 6 or 7 hours of running with the 787, I haven't tried this in the 787 yet. Sorry, I haven't tried this in the 747. That's the next thing I want to try. But after about 6 or 7 hours, the frame rate just tanks completely, and it goes down to like 5 frames per second, and you have to restart the sim to get the frame rate to come back. So that's something else that's a little bit concerning about the airlines. Callum says, will you do the circle approach into Innsbruck? Yeah, we can do that. So we didn't do that last time. I wasn't brave enough. We had planned on a straight in approach, so we kind of just flew that because we had a bit of weather issues. So the cloud base was kind of low at Innsbruck, so we had to kind of weave through the clouds even on the straight in approach to be able to see. But yeah, that's definitely something we should do next time, is do that circle to land approach, because that is fantastic. So I'll have a look at doing that. Possibly, I think next weekend we'll jump on that, because during the week I'm really busy and I don't have my full streaming setup. So I'm gonna make a plan this week to get a setup going in Joburg where I stay for work, and see what I can do there, but I don't have my full setup. So next weekend, I think that sounds like a good idea. If the A320 is playing the game in Flight Sim and it's working nicely, we'll do another Innsbruck flight in that. Otherwise, we can jump into X-Plane and fly the Tola. So I want to do a lot more British Airways flights, because like I said earlier, I'm flying for British Airways Virtual, and I just want to get my hours up to the point where I can unlock, I suppose, or reach the rank that allows me to fly the Concorde, because I'm loving the Concorde. But I want to fly it for the virtual airline, so that'll be awesome. So yeah, I'm gonna do. I've still got like 200 hours to go, so it's not gonna be soon. We need to do a bit more flying for British Airways, but that's cool because BA does operate to Innsbruck, so that's one of the flights we can do. And if I can get the A320 running nicely, it seems very promising at the moment. I've done like 3-4 flights in it, and it's worked alright, aside from the one where it flipped on its back. But I think I know what the issue with that is. I think that's the icing system, which in Flight Sim is a little bit overboard. So it seems like if there's any clouds, now if we look at the temperature, we're -11. So up here we shouldn't be too stressed about ice, and the icing in X-Plane is alright, so we don't have any ice warnings. But in flight sim, the ice builds up super quickly and it covers the entire aircraft. And even if you're up at 34,000 feet and you know it's minus 28, minus 30 degrees, it seems to just ice up the entire airplane until the point where it just flips over and you can't control it. So I have found that keeping the anti-ice on whenever there's clouds around kind of solves that issue. So I'm hoping it was that caused that one problem. Otherwise, it's been running all right. So yeah, let's see if we can do an Innsbruck flight next weekend, and we'll do the circle approach, which hopefully I can get right, because it's not easy. So I don't know if you guys know, but pilots that want to fly into Innsbruck, they need a special rating. So not just anyone can fly in there. Even the airline pilots, they have to go through a course and get a special rating to be qualified to fly into Innsbruck. There's only a few airports in the world that you need a specific rating to be able to fly into. Yeah, Innsbruck is one of them just because it's right in the mountains like that, and especially the procedures like the circle to land is very tricky. So that's why it has its own special rating. Right. So we are 443 Zulu and we're still expecting 529. So we're well on our way, 338 miles to top of descent. Nice and windy, you can see the contrail being blown to the right. Okay, let's do a check. But yeah, I was just thinking about the circle approach. That's something that I want to start doing a little bit more often on the streams, is finding like those interesting airports with the interesting approaches to come in and do, kind of challenge myself a little bit. I actually watched a streamer the other night who flew the Concorde into Innsbruck and did the circle approach in the Concorde, which was pretty intense. I don't think I'm going to do that just yet. He has, however, been flying the Concorde and X-Plane for many years, so a lot more experience than I have. I've only just started flying the Concorde. I've done like 5 or 6 flights in it. But yeah, I want to look at those hectic airports like Innsbruck, like something like Paro, do some flights into those areas with the challenging approaches, because it makes it a bit more interesting. But for the moment, we are building up hours for British Airways. So what was I trying to do? Look at conditions for Cape Town. So we're still temperature 18. Surface winds 210 at 12, so nothing has changed there, and the prediction isn't changing anytime soon. QNH 1011, completely clear, not a single cloud. Let's see, clouds broken at 13,800 feet, that's all. So just a few clouds all the way up, almost 14,000 feet. Visibility, absolutely no issues there. Cape Town, nice and clear, so it's going to be relatively chilled coming into Cape Town. So those broken clouds up at 14,000 feet, that's the kind of the start of that cold front that's just off the coast. So that's going to be hitting, I think it's a cold front. It looks like it. Obviously I'm not a weatherman, despite what Kelly says in the chat. But yeah, it looks like the start, maybe it's not a cold front, because there's a low pressure down here. So I don't know, the weather situation in South Africa is really weird at the moment, because we've got the cyclone, which is now an overland depression, I think they call it, which has moved in loads of flooding in Mozambique, northern South Africa, which sounds kind of weird to say, but in the north, Polokwane, Limpopo area, and then into Botswana. That overland depression has kind of moved in that area now. But There's another high pressure system off the coast of Durban, quite far off, which is bringing in all of this rain that we are still flying through now, and that we took off it. So the weather system is really strange at the moment. So I'm not actually going to make any predictions because this is beyond my level of weather understanding. There's too many strange phenomena going on right now for me to predict the weather. But what I can tell you is we will be arriving clear skies in Cape Town. Jason, first in the chat, 100%. Congrats to you. What a champion, but thanks for tuning in. And Q, Kelly giving you attitude for being super late. Oh, that's amazing. At least you're here, Jason. That's all that matters. Only an hour and 40 minutes late, but you made it. You made it after all. And that's what counts. Actually, just saw you were in Explain on Steam. Why am I logged into Steam chat? Normally I'm logged out. That's interesting. Oh well. Jason, I still need you to help me fix Streamlabs. I don't understand why it takes so long to pick up that I have got a new subscriber. Just don't get it. And I can't find anyone else who has the same issue. Normally if you just Google a problem like that, probably in a different time zone. That's not a bad shout. That's not a bad shout at all. The next question though would be, how the hell do I change that? That is actually a very good point. Yeah, there's nowhere here that I can change anything like that. It's alone status. Hello, welcome to the stream. No, I mean, it's a good idea, Jason, because obviously Streamlabs is located in the US, but I mean, there's literally no way I can change anything to do with time zone. But the problem is, it's just so, like, I get a subscriber and it only, Streamlabs only notices, but it's actually, I don't think it's Streamlabs, I think it's YouTube, because if I know that someone's subscribed, like they say they do it in the chat or whatever, and I go look at my subscriber count, I can see that it's gone up. But on YouTube, I only get the notification like the next day. So I don't actually think it's a Streamlabs issue, I think it's just a YouTube issue. Which is weird, because that should happen, that should come through instantly. Like, why would YouTube take so long to give me a notification like that? Because I can see now that someone subscribed during this stream, so it's supposed to pop up over the stream and announce that. And I can only tell because my account went up, because I'll only get the notification tomorrow, which is pointless. So I don't know. But I mean, time zones was a good idea. I'll give you that much. Right, so we've got just over half an hour to go before we start our top of descent. We can just see top of descent appearing now. Hopefully you can see my mouse. You should be able to now. Over there. Just before getting. So what have we got? Oh, VR 11730, so that's just default. Default values. We'll sort all of that out. In about 10 minutes or so, we'll start prepping all of our frequencies and everything for our arrival into Cape Town. Please don't encourage him, Kelly. We don't need Nightbots taking over the stream again. Let's have a look at another flyby because we can. See, I don't know. Nightbot always, the first one, it doesn't register. Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's obviously. I don't know if all caps is still banned. I think I turned that off. Not that bad. All caps, I don't think that was even Nightbot. I think that was just YouTube. That's the thing, streaming is hard because there's YouTube has filters, Nightbot has filters, so does Streamlabs. It's tough, man. You gotta look at things in all sorts of different places. Let's have a look. Oh, okay, no, it's not a YouTube thing, the all caps. That is an iPod thing, so I obviously turned that off. It's literally, you are the only one that types in all caps. It's fine. The more Jason keeps commenting, the better it is for the stream anyway, and get more engagement. So he thinks he's trolling, but he's actually helping me. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to test, because I can relaunch old subscriptions that came through. So let me test one that's already happened and see if that pops up. Because that'll at least mean Streamlabs is working into the stream. Yeah, there we go. So it does show up. So it's obviously just an issue of Streamlabs picking up, well, YouTube actually giving a notification that people have subscribed. Which I don't know how to fix because I've searched through all the forums, I've done Googling, no one else seems to have this issue. See, now Jason's gone quiet because we said he was trolling. Or maybe he's just playing Dota. Can't be bothered to check on Steam. Right, I think we are now just past 5 in the morning. I think it's time to start setting up for our descent. So let's go and load up our arrival procedure. This is our star for today. We are doing Getan 1 Bravo. Right, so we're going to come in on the 120-degree radial for Atom VR. At 8 DME, so over Stellenbosch, we turn right to 010 degrees. And then we would normally get radar vectored, but we'll vector ourselves to join the ILS runway 19. Let's have a look and see that that is programmed in correctly. So, after I'm hunting ghosts. Oh, Phasmophobia. Okay, that's awesome. Kelly and I tried that game. It did not go well. Right. So after getting, we... What does that say? Cape Town 30. I guess that's just the point. There's the radial. So 120 and then onto vectors. So after the radial we turn to 010, which is perfect. Then we get vectors onto runway 19. Perfect. Yeah, are you playing with Sean? Oh, there's Nightbot's woken up. I just don't understand what triggers Nightbot to do that message, because sometimes it does it right in the beginning of the stream, sometimes it does it all the time, sometimes it does it like now. It's been almost 2 hours and it hasn't done it once until now. So I think Nightbot is just triggered by Jason. Like as soon as you join the stream, Nightbot starts doing things. Okay, the other thing we need to do, yeah, that was our issue. We tried Phasmophobia, and then I got annoyed because we were getting scared, and then didn't go well. Are you just playing by yourself? Okay, what was I looking for? Ah, speeds. So, that's what that 30 DME in our FMS is. So, 30 DME, 250 knots or less, 8 DME, 210 knots or less. Then on the localizer, we need to remember, on the localizer 180 and passing the outer marker 150 or less. Because these two, the 8 DME and 30 DME, are programmed into the FMS. FMC? I can never remember which one it is. Let's go and double check. FMC. Oh, I've broken everything. There we go. Right, so those are programmed in, but the 180 on the localizer and 150 passing the outer marker, that's not programmed. We have to do that ourselves. Okay, the other thing we need to do then is go and have a look. We'll put Cape Town VOR is 1157. We'll put that on nav 2 so that we have a reference. But we also need to go and get the frequencies for the ILS. So we are doing ILS, I think I chose ILS Yankee runway 19. Let's go and get that chart. Where are the ILS? There's Zulu, there's Yankee. Do not give it enough time to update. No, what a baddie. Okay, there we go. So there's ILS Yankee. Right, let's have a look. So, our frequency is ILS 1091. Let's dial that in. So 1091 is already there somehow. And we'll dial it in on this side, but we won't flip it over yet because we want to use that to measure our... That's our position report. So tune com to 119.10. So, right, that's our position report done for British Airways. Okay. 1091. So that's now set on both our navs. So it's on nav 1 and it's ready to flip over. So that means we can measure to Cape Town VOR from nav 2 and we'll flip it over to the ILS when we get once we make that turn to the north. I think then we'll be sorted. Then that's all we need for now. What is our intercept altitude? So we want to be at 3,000 feet and our minimums. So we are straight in approach, category C. And so we will set to barometric 301 feet. So let's flip this over to baro. Let's dial this up to 301. Okay, so minimums are set. We said we're using auto brake level 2 for this approach. And let's come down here also and we're using flaps 30. So let's compare this speed, so 149, with our planned speed in our landing performance. Now, the landing performance automatically adds 5 knots. So we take this reference and we add 5 knots to account for any wind issues. So there it is underneath. So this is telling us 149. Then we will add 5 knots onto that, so 154. And what is this telling us? 152. Interesting. So this is slightly lower. Let's go and see our landing weight. We're still having a landing weight 64.5. I think that's different to what we had earlier, isn't it? Hi, we 64.4. That's why. So 64.5 we are expecting for our landing weight. Let's check what that's done. Still 152, and this is here we're expecting 154, so slightly off. We'll use 154 from the FMC. That's fine. Other thing I always forget, because we don't have to do this in any aircraft aside from the 737, is to set these course values. So 191, which we do up here. So this is something I always forget to do, especially when I've come from flying the Airbus, because we don't have to do this in the Airbus. Actually, we have to do this in the Concorde as well. It's got the old school course selector, so in Concorde we would also do that. But when I come from flying the Airbus, which I've been doing recently, I always forget to do this because the Airbus does it for us. Right, then I think that is us ready for our arrival into Cape Town. It's a fairly simple arrival as usual. There's nothing too crazy here in South Africa when it comes to procedures. I need to remember to maintain that speed. So once we make this turn, I think on this turn it's going to have us at 210 knots because we need to be by 8 DME, so that's before this turn to the north. We need to be already at 210. So I think on this turn here we need to start slowing down to 180 knots. That'll work nicely. And while we're doing that, we'll do flaps and all of that on schedule, and that'll put us at 180 already when we intercept the localizer, which is perfect. Then we need to keep an eye out for the outer marker, and by the time we hit the outer marker, we need to be at 150 or less. So we'll most likely slow down to our approach speed before that anyway. So we must remember 180 knots until 10 DME. So we can't slow down past 180 until we pass 10 DME. So then I think at 10 DME we will slow down to our approach speed of 154, and that'll bring us under the restriction at the outer mark. So that's great. That works out nicely. Okay, so top of descent we are expecting 5:30, and it's currently 5:11. So about 20 minutes until we start our descent to Cape Town. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do, because it's not hot tonight, I'm a baddie and I didn't get myself water. And now because I've been talking so much, throat's going dry. So we've got about 20 minutes to go. I'm going to quickly take 5 minutes to go get something to drink. And I will be back in a bit before we start our descent. So, see you guys shortly. Right, I'm back. And I have water now. Also, I have the weirdest injury, which I just messed up again trying to open a water bottle. I was trying to open a bottle that was super tight over the weekend. Kind of just like pulled all the skin off my thumb. So, aren't you guys happy you know that? But now every time I open a bottle, it hurts. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. I don't know how. It's like I didn't cut myself. It's like scraped it. So like grazed my thumb, I guess, opening a bottle of water. No, it wasn't a bottle of water that I was opening. What was I opening? Something weird. Some jam or something. Now every time I try and open a bottle, because obviously I'm not smart enough to remember that it's there. So I forget and I try and open another bottle and it's already messed up. So yeah, sucks to be me, I guess. Also, I'm messing water every... Oh, the Bovril, yeah, that's what I was trying to open. It's messing water everywhere, honestly. Right. We are about 10 minutes give or take a few minutes from top of descent. So let me know in the chat, what are you guys up to this Monday evening? I know Jason's playing Phasmophobia. You say Muse messing, but he was the one who ate our entire bottle of peanut butter. So I feel like I'm not as bad as Muse. Well, I say he didn't eat the whole bottle, but he messed the whole bottle because he was eating out of it and messed it all over the house. So I'm not as bad as Muse. Yeah, so here's something interesting. We're pretty close to Cape Town now. I thought the weather would have stopped by now. Now, here's me thinking that I was messing around with settings in Active Sky and I've probably broken something. Because this is George, yeah, so we shouldn't really have clouds this far. Mind you, yeah, okay, I guess it could be. Yeah, no. Gingy is a potato, but he's entertaining. Still, I don't understand how he opened the peanut butter, because he's a cat. How did he unscrew the lid? And knowing him, I bet you he didn't even like the peanut butter. So he licked it once. And then he just left it. Pretty significant crosswind here, 330 knots. Ah, 330 knots. 330 degrees, 63 knots. How far are we from top of the set? 76 miles, not far to go. Jason says, I was just murdered by a poltergeist. Well, I feel like you need to be a bit better. Trees are sanctuaries. Whoever knows how to speak to them, whoever knows how to listen to them, can learn the truth from the tree that she's cut down. You're very into trees. Yeah, that's Dave. Dave's still upset about his tree that I cut down. But I was just trying to help. That's all I wanted to do. Thought I'd save him. Made a mistake. Miscalculated. It happens. You know, my intentions were good, Dave. I came in there hoping to save you. I did realize pretty soon that I'd made a mistake, and I did bail out and leave you to die. But when I originally made the decision to swoop in, it was to try and save you. Right, not long to go now. 56 nautical miles, top of descent. Let's go and put in our altitude that we're going to descend to, which is 3,000 feet. So we'll do a bit of scrolling simulator. Right, there we go. So we're going all the way down to 3,000. We'll double check. Our minimum's 301. Water brakes level 2. And we should be set for flaps 30. Let's actually reapply that because it's 1 knot slower. Ah, that could be the difference between our FMC and this guy. That explains it. So this is calculating based on our landing weight. This is calculating based on our current weight. So let's see if we give this a little bit more time. Right before we do top of descent, we'll double check this. Maybe it will have come down enough to get to that 152, because we just needed it to come down 1 more knot, because we're now, remember, we add 5 to this, so we're now at 153. If that comes down 1 more knot before we hit top of descent, which it very well can, then those will be the same, which will make perfect sense. Okay, I figured that out. I think that's the case. That's why they were slightly different. Right, we are now picking up Cape Town VOR, so 136 miles to Cape Town's VOR. That is our DME over there. Once we make that right turn, we'll flip that over so we're both on the ILS in case we want to do an auto land. And yes, this plane can land itself. Let's go back to our chart. I think I've broken active sky, so we shouldn't have any rain towards Cape Town. So what I'm going to do, let me just fix that. Yeah, once again, I'm breaking X-plane, so we're gonna wobble around because I'm messing with things I shouldn't mess with while the flight is going. But hey, that's the way it goes. I decided to look at active sky because someone was asking about it, and then I found a bunch of settings that I'd never played with before, so now I'm changing things. But it'll come back in a second, don't stress. reason why it's freaking out so much is because we lost that hectic 60 knot wind, which is now back. Okay, and we should get our clouds back now. Right. So that should be the weather sorted. Okay, let's have a look. Top of descent, 23 miles. Okay, because we've dialed this in and we have VNAV engaged, when the plane thinks it's time to start descending, it will do so automatically and take us down to 3,000 feet. So that's all already set up. Right, I think what we do next is go through the checklist, which was on the floor. Every single time, wrong page. Right, here we go. So, center fuel pumps are both off because we have no fuel in the center tank anymore. FMC is set. Descent altitude 3000 is set. Engine start switches will set to continuous when we start descending. Fasten seatbelt sign on below 15,000 feet. Landing lights on below 10,000 feet. Altimeter for Cape Town is 1011, so let's go and dial that in so long. I quite like this on the Boeing, is that you can dial in the QNH without choosing it. So on the Airbus you have to disengage standard and then dial in the new QNH. This is kind of cool. I can put it there, and as soon as I disengage standard, it flips over to the correct altimeter setting, which is quite cool. Right. That is us ready for our descent, which is coming up in just a few miles. 12 miles to go. And the aircraft will automatically start its descent into Cape Town. Oh, weird. The visibility reported was not bad at all. But it doesn't look to be so great out that way towards Cape Town, which is interesting. Not to worry though, we're doing the ILS, so even if the viz is not great, we will still be able to land. Reported visibility for Cape Town. Let me go and double check. Where do you get your minimums value? So that is on the ILS charts. So if we are doing ILS 19 Yankee, so we open up that chart, down here at the bottom is where you get your minimums. So depending on the type of approach we're doing, so we're doing a Cat 1 straight in approach, and we're a category C aircraft, so there's my minimums. This is a barrow reading. One thing I'm not 100% sure on is when you choose radio and when you choose barrow for minimums. If I remember correctly, you do radio if you're doing Cat 3. That's something I need to actually research and look up because I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know that this is the barometric reading. So if we set 301 barometric, that will give us a minimum score at 150 feet radio. So I guess you could put this value in and set your altimeter over to radio, and it'll be the same altitude. So yeah, that's where you get your minimums from. So that's published for each runway for the ILS, or if you're doing a different approach, it'll have the same thing. They all have their minimums values. Right, so we've just started our descent down to 3,000 feet. Cool, no problem. Always happy to answer questions. Once again, I'm not a rail pilot, so everything I tell you is only for use in the simulator. Please don't do this in a rail plane. Because because this is not something I've studied or been taught. It's just bits of information that I've picked up over the years of doing this in the simulator. Right. So a couple of clouds. Okay, so they did say broken clouds up at 14,000 feet. Let's see if that's still in the weather reports. No, so it now says clear below 20,000 feet. So a couple of scattered clouds up here above 20,000 feet. Otherwise, nothing significant going to Cape Town. Nothing on the weather radar. What I will do, because it's kind of cool and it's pretty useful actually, let's put the terrain radar on this side. And we can zoom that in a little bit. So now we can see that'll paint a picture of the terrain, so the mountains in front of us. It's actually, that zoom setting is perfect. Let's leave it like that. And that's nice and helpful when we're flying low down there. Actually, since there's no weather, let's put it on this side as well. We need the weather radar. My display is slightly more zoomed out, but that gives us a nice picture. So the green is obviously going to be the highest peaks at the moment, but as we descend, the closer the terrain gets to our altitude, they'll start to go yellow, and then red means if we had to fly over that point, we are going to hit it. So green's fine, we can fly perfectly fine over green. If it starts getting yellow, we need to be careful. If it's red, we cannot fly over that point because it is too low and we will most likely collide with it. So that's something to be aware of. Right, so at 15,000 feet, we can turn on the seatbelt signs. 10,000 feet, we turn on the landing lights. And then we are good to go. 72 miles from Cape Town's VOR. Okay, so let's see, what time is it expecting to arrive at Cape Town? 5:56, we are 5:35, so pretty much right on 20 minutes before we touch down. This terrain display is especially useful if you're doing an approach like we did the other night into Innsbruck, where you come in between the mountains. Okay, so they did say they'd fixed that issue with the ZIBO maintaining descent speed. Now it's slightly slow, so the issue that I always had before was it would just completely run away with the speed while we were descending, and we pretty much always had to use the speed brakes to manage our descent speed. So, but now maybe they've overcooked it a little bit because we're slightly slow, about 10 knots slower than we should be. But I prefer to be slower than fast because at least we're more controlled. That means when we get down to level off, we're not going way too fast, and it also means that we won't bust through the 250 knot restriction. So remember, below 10,000 feet, unless ATC clears you otherwise, you need to be at 250 knots or less. Obviously, if the aircraft isn't maintaining your descent speed, when you get down to 250 or when you get down to 10,000 feet, you're going to be too fast and you're going to break that restriction. So if we're slightly slow, that's a little bit more acceptable than being too fast, because at least we'll be under that speed limit, which is okay. Right, I did say I was going to recheck this calculation. So it hasn't come up to 149. So we are still at 148 plus 5 is 153, which is 1 knot faster than we had planned for over here, but that's really not a big difference. So we'll go with 153 knots on our final approach speed. So once we actually intercept the ILS, we will make that turn. So let's go and have a look here. Not this one, we want this guy. So here we need to be at 210 knots. 30 DME will go down to 250. 8 DME 210. So once we kind of get halfway through this turn, we'll slow it down to 180 knots and then intercept the localizer. So what are we now? 56 DME from Cape Town. So 20 miles or so until we slow down to 250, regardless of whether we're at 10,000 feet or whatever. At that distance we have to be down to 250 knots, but I think we'll be around 10,000 feet at that point anyway. So that's just before there. You can see that little green. If I turn off this terrain radar, it'll make it easier to see. The green deceleration point, that's where we will start slowing down to 250 knots. We need to be at 250 by that point. That's 30 DME from Cape Town. Then by this point we need to be at 210 knots. So we'll keep double checking that. Right, if you've just tuned in though, welcome to the stream. We are making our descent into Cape Town International. We departed Durban about 2 hours ago. And we will be on the ground in just under 20 minutes at Cape Town. Right, it all looks good though so far. We still have 41 knot headwind, which we're turning more kind of into at the moment. Not to worry. So we'll keep a lookout and see other side this hill. And I think just that's Table Mountain all the way on that side. So just other side this hill, we're actually going to start our right turn just over Stellenbosch. That's where we turn right to 10 degrees, 010. And let's see if we can see the little hill. It's that little section there. So we're going to turn right. Well, is it that one or is it this one here? Oops. No, these are the hills here in front of Stellenbosch. So Stellenbosch is down here somewhere. It's this little hill here. So we're going to go all the way out around that hill and intercept the localizer into runway 19. So landing to the south. We're coming up to 16,000. At 15,000, we will switch on the fasten seatbelt signs. Right, is there anything else I need to go through on the checklist? So, altimeter setting is 1011, that's set and ready to switch over. Altitude is set for our descent, 3,000 feet. ILS course 191, set, 191 both set, perfect. Approach speed is set, let's double check. So we've got 148 there plus 5, so 153. And this was saying 152, so that's fine, we'll use 153. Minimums 301 barrow set. Flaps, obviously we will set that once we start slowing down. So we'll carry on with that part of the checklist once we are turning towards our final approach. This part is actually always quite kind of scary because it feels like you're going to hit those mountains in front. So like if you're just judging it like this, it really does feel like we're going to hit those mountains. But just before the mountain range is when we slow down to 250 knots. So when we slow down, we'll slow our descent quite significantly. So almost to the point where we aren't descending. And that kind of bumps us over the mountains without hitting them. It is kind of strange. Even in real life, if you're looking out the window, the last time I flew to Cape Town, I literally had the very first seat. So, oh, the cabin door's open, that's weird. But I mean, I was literally seat 1A over here where this chick is sinking into the chair. And if you look like this, it does kind of feel like you're gonna... my window that I had was a little bit of a better angle, it was further forward. And if you look, it does kind of feel like you're gonna hit the the mountain range. But anyway. Let's just go back in here and we'll close this. Keep the plebs out. Right. So we should be coming up to that top of descent. Also, we're below 15,000 feet and I didn't turn this on. It's not a hard and fast rule, it's more of a guideline. There we go. You can see us starting to slow down. So our descent rate is all the way down, less than 500 feet per minute descent. We're down to 250 knots. And we're currently at Cape Town, 31 DME. So we are well within the restriction. See, we shouldn't drop this far below our speed. Our engines should be spooling up now to push us back up to that speed, which they are not. Still a little bit of tweaking needed on the descent speeds, but now we're starting to descend again. So we should get back roughly close to the speed. I'm just glad it doesn't go over anymore. If it's underneath, that's okay for now. I'm happy with that, so we don't break any restrictions. Okay. So we should get another decel point just in front of us, which we have over there, which is where we're going to slow down from this 250 to 210. So by that 8 DME we need to be at 210 knots. Okay, coming up to 11,000 feet. As we cross 10,000 feet, we need to be landing lights on. Yeah, I'm going to keep that Cape Town VOR up on nav 2 until we start this right turn. Then I'll flip it over to the ILS in case we need to. Well, I mean, we're not going to need to do an auto land in this weather, but just out of practice, we will put it there in case we had to do an auto land where we need both radios set to the ILS frequency and both courses set. That's why I do it on both sides. Okay, so they're just about across 10,000 feet, so let's go landing lines on. And we should start slowing down soon. Oh, it's taking us down to 240 knots, so that's fine. So just before we hit that point, so that's 8 DME, we will slow down to 210 knots. Okay, but the engines, they should start spooling up now. Oh, I guess we're gonna start descending again, so we'll get that speed back. Right, so not long now until we touch down in Cape Town. We are currently 5:45 in the morning, so this is Zulu time. Let's have a look, and we are predicting Cape Town at 5:56. So just over 10 minutes until we touch down at Cape Town International. Transition altitude here, I wonder what it is. It should tell us on here, 7,500 feet. So once we cross 7,500 feet, we will switch this over from standard to 1011. Let's go and have a listen to our Addons and see if we can. Okay, we are picking up Cape Town.
2000 Zulu weather wind 235 at 15 visibility 10 south sky clear temperature 18
No visibility issues.
QNH 1011.
Yeah, so it is 1011, and we have information echo. That's perfect. We see the airport up ahead. Yes, we can. Just over there. That's Cape Town International. We'll be landing from that side. Okay, so there it's put in our speed reduction down to 211, because that's our flap. Our speed where we lower our first stage of flaps. So as we approach that, we'll put flaps down so we can actually get down to 210. Let's go altimeter 1011. That'll bring up the nose a little bit, and that speed should start bleeding off. Otherwise, I'll put in a little bit of speed brake so that we can bring that speed down. But it is starting to come down. We should be 210 before we start this turn. It is slowly coming down. I think we should help it along a little bit. So let's give it some speed brakes. We'll also just go. See, our FM is also telling us we need some drag, which is our speed brakes. Let's go flaps 1, just so we can get down. We don't want to go lower than 210, so we'll dial that in manually. Okay, speed brakes can now come back in, as we're done with that. Kelly's off. Thanks for the stream. See you at the next one. Have a good night and sleep well, and we will see you on the next stream. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. Alright, so there's our turn. We are at 210, 210 and a half, I guess, which is perfect. There's the aircraft trimming like crazy to get us trimmed out correctly. Let's turn off music because we're starting our approach. Right, so these little hills here, that's what we're going to go around. Start our approach from that side. Cape Town Airport is out that way. And we are flying parallel to the runway now, so there's runway 19 over there that we're going to land on once we have made our turn. Turn off my terrain here and just go weather, just in case we have any wind shear or anything that we're going to pick up on the weather radar, which, looking at the weather, we shouldn't really be seeing anything. Right, why have we stayed at 6,000 feet? Because we would normally be vectored, so we're going to start our own descent here, down to 3,000, and we'll just do 100 feet a minute, should be perfect. So once we kind of pass these hills, I'll start turning us in. Normally this would be vectored by air traffic control, so we would maintain this 010 heading until they give us a vector to the left, and then we will follow their instructions and they will put us on a course to intercept the ILS or runway 19. But we don't have ATC, we're not flying online at the moment, so we are going to vector ourselves essentially. Right, so let's give ourselves, start vectoring ourselves. So let's do something like
1,000 to go.
We'll go heading select. Okay, now that we're starting this turn, let's slow down to our 180 knots. And we'll let that speed just kind of come down naturally. We can also arm our speed brakes so that they will deploy as soon as we have weight on the wheels, so when we touch down on the runway.
$2,500.
Yeah, I just want to clear this hill and we will complete our turn. Yeah, as we're passing through those flap speeds, let's go now flaps 2 and flaps 5. And let's give ourselves some more of a turn. So generally, from my understanding, you want to intercept the ILS 30 degrees or less. So that means we want to be, because our ILS heading is 191, so we want to be about 210, 220. Did I get that math? So 220 degrees or less to intercept. What I'm actually going to do is, because we have a waypoint right there on the ILS path, I'm just going to do it direct to that waypoint and it'll calculate our turn nicely for us. So let's go and do that, and we'll go back not to B now, to L now. Oops. Let's bring this down or back up to 180. So that'll now turn us perfectly onto that ILS course. Right, glide slope is alive, localizer is alive. So once we get onto that kind of less than 30 degrees, we'll arm the approach. It's calculating that turn for us nicely, which is great. Okay, so we're at 180 knots. We need to maintain that until 10 DME. We are currently at 12 DME. Once we pass 10 DME, we will slow down to our approach speed of 153. And we should go just past this hill on this side here. Right, let's arm our approach as we're coming through the localizer. So we'll pick that up. And we'll capture the glide slope in just a bit. So we should see the runway just to the right of this hill. So there's our runway over there. We are low. We got 4 reds on the puppy, but that's normal. So we intercept the glide slope from underneath. Okay, coming up to 10 DME now. Let's flip this over, not that one, this one, to our ILS frequency, so we have that on both sides. Won't affect anything that the aircraft is doing. It's just in case we wanted to do an auto land, we would need that.
$2,500.
Okay, we're below 10 DME. So let's go down to our approach speed, and we should see the glide slope coming down now, which it is. And we want to be stable before we capture the glide slope, so that means flaps and gear down. Right, so we're passing our flaps 5 speed, so we'll go flaps 10. Now that flaps are 10, we can go gear down, and we'll go flaps 15, flaps 25, and flaps 30 is our landing flap setting. We're now at our reference airspeed. We can also go flaps 30, and we're just about to intercept that glide slope. We can now turn on our taxi runway takeoff light, runway turn-off lights, because we have our gear down. Engine start switch is continuous, and we are just about ready for our landing. So let's go through the checklist. Flaps 30, green light. Speed brakes on. Auto brake, level 2. Landing gear down, 3 green. Taxi lights on. Landing checklist complete. Okay, so we're just letting the aircraft stabilize as it captures that glide slope. And we should be stable at 1,000 feet. So that means our engines should be spooled up. We don't want them all the way down to idle, because obviously these turbofan engines take a while to spool up. So in the case of a go around, you want them to be reasonably spooled up. So I think it's above 50%, which means we're alright at the moment. So by 1,000 feet, flaps down, gear down, and our engines above 50. Nice and spooled up in case we need to do a go around. So we're looking good for that. The engines will start spooling up a little bit more now that we've intercepted the glide slope completely. Okay, let's flip over to manual control of our throttles. So the speed is on me now. And at 1,000 feet, we'll take control of the aircraft as well. So normally in the rail aircraft, you kind of
1,000.
do both at the same
1,000
time,
feet stabilized, Mr. Burchett.
because you'll have a switch on the control column that allows you to disconnect the autopilot and the auto throttle all at once. I don't have that, so I do them separately. Make sure that I have good control over the throttles, because obviously my throttles, my hardware throttles, don't move in response to the aircraft. In reality, your throttles move, so there's no kind of discrepancy between the two. So I switch over to manual control over the throttles, and then make sure that that settles down so that I get rid of any difference between the
400.
hardware throttles and the actual throttles in the aircraft. And I'm waffling on and I'm nice and low.
300.
Let's sort that out.
Approaching minimums. 200.
Okay, so there's minimums coming up.
Minimums.
Continue.
100.
Right, let's see if we can touch it down right on the touchdown
50,
zone. So there's two
40,
solid lines.
30. 20. 10.
Yeah, that felt pretty good. Let's go reverse green. Ooh, a little bit bumpy. Keep it on the center. Coming through 100 knots. It's 80 knots.
80 knots.
Let's bring the reverses back to idle. And we'll also go manual braking. So this doesn't disconnect automatically, so let's quickly put this over to off. So we disconnect the auto brakes. Right, we'll get rid of the reverses. Callum says, nice landing, thank you so much. I think we got it right on the touchdown zone that we were aiming for, so pretty happy with that one. I will not lie. Felt really good. Right, let's retract the flaps. We can also turn off the landing lights. We can start the APU because we're very close to the gate. Engine start switches back to auto, and we'll turn off our strobe lights. Yeah, let's double check that the spoilers actually... No, they went all the way back to full for some reason. There we go. Right, and then, so we did take taxiway Charlie, we didn't go all the way down to the end, which is what I thought we would do. So this landing calculation that we had on our tablet didn't really take into consideration the reverse thrust on a dry runway, which is interesting. But I know they are working on the landing and takeoff calculators, so maybe that's not 100% complete yet. But anyway, we did take the taxiway that I predicted we would take. Right, after landing checklist. So, speed brakes down, flaps retracted, landing lights off, probe heats can come off. Stabilizer trim back to 4 units, so let's do that. It'll click when it gets there. APU we've started, position lights are back to steady, so our strobes are off. And weather radar and terrain radar will switch off in a second. Right, so there's our stabilizer reset. So what did I say we needed to turn off? Terrain radar over here, weather radar over there. We can also take our transponder out of TARA back to standby. And we'll do gate... let's park on the right hand side. Actually no, the left hand side we have the auto gate markers. Oh, I think they have them on the right as well. Yeah, they do. Let's park on the right today. We'll do one of the Bravo gates, because we never do that. How much storage do you have on your PC? So I've got 3 hard drives in this computer. I have a 256 gig SSD, which has my operating system and X-Plane on it. And it's also got my other flight sim stuff on it as well. And then I have another 1 terabyte drive for storing all other games and things that don't need to be on the SSD, video files and stuff like that. And then I've got an old 500 gig, which is just backup of old installation files and things like that for flight sim. So the main drive that I'm running my flight sims off is just a 256 gig SSD, but I actually want to put another SSD in because I'm starting to run out of space on that now because the new flight sim is enormous. So yeah, all the things like ortho photos and stuff like that for flight sim is on my standard 1 TB drive. That's not on the SSD because I just don't have enough space for that. Right, let's turn off taxi and turn off lights. Let's do Bravo 27. That looks like a nice gate we'll take today. Okay, so less than 10 knots on the 10. Cool. Okay, then 5 knots-ish on the approach. So we're looking at that little auto gate, or it tells us when to stop. So it's detected. We're a Boeing 737-800. And it should give us an indication of when we need to stop. So there we go, 19 meters. 10. 2, 1, and stop. Set the parking brake so that we don't move anywhere else. Then we can go ahead and switch over from our engines to the APU. And once we've done that, we can shut down the engines. Okay, then we can go through our checklist. So, parking brake set, APU bleed. We can now turn on because we're on the APU. We'll leave the air conditioning on. APU generator is on, fasten seatbelt sign can now come off. Okay, engine start levers cut off, transponder set to standby, exterior lights. We'll wait for the engines to spool down through 5%, then we'll turn off all the exterior lights. Fuel pumps can come off except for aft left. Window heaters, we did probes, but we didn't do window heats, so let's turn those guys off. Anti-ice is never on. Engine hydraulic pumps can both come off. And so can the electrical, so we'll turn all of those off. Left and right resoak fans we're leaving on. Flight directors we can turn off. Engines are coming through 5% about now, so let's turn off the anti-collision light. That tells the ground crew that they are safe to approach the aircraft. And we will start getting the passengers off. Auto brake should be off, which it is. APU is now running, and that is it for our parking checklist. Alright, so we parked on this side, a little bit off the center line. Oops. And our spoilers are up again. Oh, but they're down here. Interesting. That's a little bit strange. So if I set them on in the and they go down outside, so that's a little bit weird. That might be something to do with my hardware that I should... Oh, now they're down. And this... Oh, that's up. Okay, I don't know what's happening with the spoilers. Well, we'll have to mess around with that and see. Right, but there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have arrived, so welcome to everyone to Cape Town International. And there we go, the nice NMG... Is this... Oh, no, this is FSDG scenery for Cape Town International. So there we go. That concludes our 2.5 hour-ish flight. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me go and set up the outro before I say goodbye real. Like so. Alright, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, the support is much appreciated. If you haven't already and you want to see more content, please remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you hit the notification bell, it will let you know as soon as I go live. Because I haven't been doing this very long, I don't have a set schedule because I kind of just have to do this whenever I can fit it around the rest of my work. So if you want to know when I'm about to go live, hit the notification bell and it will let you know. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you again soon. Thanks so much, Callum, for always being there and supporting and asking questions. It's much appreciated. All right. I think that's it. Bye-bye.